I have 3 rules, and those rules are golden rules. The first rule is you're my boss. I don't work for the government. I don't work for the police. I don't work for these agencies. I don't work for anybody but you. So you can fire me anytime you want, and you can direct what you want me to do anytime you feel comfortable. The second rule is I never say the word should. There are people in your lives that say that word. Some of them need to say that word. A lawyer, for instance, giving you legal advice. A police officer who's got a gun pointed at you. Those people, you listen to the word should. But me, I'll never say that word. I'll give some suggestions and leave it up to you. So that's the second rule. And the third rule is I won't rat you out. I'm not the eyes and ears of children's services or the justice system or even the healthcare system. I let them know that if I know that a child is in imminent harm to themselves or to others, I have to, and I will, let the appropriate authorities know about that. But being in imminent harm is, hi Mark, I've got a drug deal coming out at my place, and you know that, and these guys got guns and knives, and you've got a baby there. That's imminent harm. But saying, I fell asleep last night and I woke up and my baby had put herself to sleep, or my toddler had put herself to sleep, that's not good. You need to work on that, but that's not a child being in imminent harm. So you have to be very clear. So those are the 3 rules. I won't rat you out, I won't use the word should, and you're my boss.
Hello, I'm Kevin Lloyd, and welcome to the Mark Cherrington podcast. Today, we're tackling a topic that affects many families, yet is often misunderstood: children's services. Joining me is Mark Cherrington. He's a dedicated advocate with over 35 years of experience, hands-on experience, helping families navigate the challenges of children's services. Mark's insights and real-world experiences have made him an invaluable resource for families in need. In this episode, we'll discuss the barriers families face when working with children's services, from bureaucratic hurdles to the emotional toll it takes on everyone involved. Mark shares practical examples of how he's helped families overcome these obstacles, whether it's advocating for them in court, connecting them to an essential resource, or offering support during tough decisions. Mark also talks about his 3 core rules that are rooted in respect, trust, and empowerment to help people take control of their situations. These principles are central to how he approaches his work and how he's made a lasting difference in the lives of the families he supports. Here are a few questions that are answered in this podcast. How does Mark's 3-rule approach change the dynamic between families and children's services? And why does he consider it essential, a golden rule, as he says, for building trust? Why does Mark believe that the current children's services model, inspired by a system from Australia, has become a failure in Alberta? What are the emotional and systematic challenges families face when trying to navigate children's services? And how does Mark advocate for the humanity in the process? What's the real cost, and for that matter, what are the priorities financially and emotionally of systematic inefficiencies that allow things like debating over a $75 bus pass for the month in a room full of professionals there to help vulnerable people? How does Mark's unwavering focus on amplifying the voices of families lead to real change and empowerment? Whether you're familiar with children's services or not, or simply want to better understand how families navigate these complex systems, this episode will give you a thought-provoking, behind-the-scenes look. Let's get into it. Hello, Mark. It's good to see you for episode 5. We've made it to episode 5. Congratulations. It's good to see you and have you here.
Only took a year and a half, but yeah.
6 months.
Oh, 6 months. Okay. I guess well, that's not too bad, I guess.
No.
I know we talked about this for a long time too, so maybe I put that into the math.
Yes, we certainly talked about it. So 5 episodes in 6 months. That's roughly an episode a month.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
which is
And
kind of
yeah, and I like the way they're structured. The time frame, an hour. I think more than an hour. It just the message gets lost because there's just too much message.
um
And I think people to think about it.
there's been a couple, actually a few times where you have said a couple of topics that we should dedicate an episode to this. One of which is child welfare, which we're going to tackle today. Another one, as I recall off the top of my head, I think was alternatives to the remand center. You kind of wanted to dive into that a little more. So maybe we can do that in the next deep dive. So you've done your homework, you've done your research, you know what you want to say, and I've got points that I'd like to cover, including references to cases or that you've worked on, without mentioning names, of course,
Yeah.
and then the questions that in relation to kind of inspire, or I guess help you recall, and kind of better explain in terms of the child welfare process and kind of how you're involved when it comes to families. So we'll get into the questions here. So the first point that I have here is, and the headlines are a little cliche, but we'll overlook that. I'd had AI help me out a little bit. Um, Systematic challenges and bureaucratic roadblocks. For example, in one instance, you supported a family facing eviction due to their inability to navigate the housing assistance process tied to child welfare. They were struggling to fulfill complex requirements set by child welfare while also managing their day to day challenges. Your
Mhm.
advocacy helped clarify expectations for the family and secure temporary housing, illustrating the need for a simplified, more supportive approach. So again, I'm not naming names, and then I don't know the date that a
No, we can't. We'd go to jail, Kevin, if we
okay,
named
yeah, yeah.
names. So
I'm just
we don't want to mention names. Yeah.
I'm just clarifying. But
Yeah.
if there's any situation, I suppose, like that that you can recall, that you can speak to,
Yeah.
um, in terms of child welfare.
Yeah. I mean, I deal with a lot of families and a lot of scenarios. Most of them are in crisis. And there's two ways that child welfare becomes involved within a family. It's the slow slide, and this could be over generations, you know, grandmother, then a mother, then a daughter, then a daughter's daughter, then it's just a slow slide. And then there's the crash, the drop, where an incident takes place, uh, and there's never been any involvement with children's services, and something takes place, and it throws the family in absolute chaos and trauma, and then children's services becomes involved. So there's those two sort of ways: you jump in or you walk in. But once you're in, it's hard to get out. When you look at why, at least, and again, when I look at why child welfare is involved, it's because of many cases a lack of systemic supports and programs, and there's many issues associated with their involvement. And the biggest factor right now, at least, and I think this is the way it is throughout North America right now, at least, is homelessness. Homelessness is having a huge impact, in my opinion, on the how the child welfare system reacts and pivots with families, because we've let this situation deteriorate, housing that is, deteriorate over the last 15 years. And there's quite a supply issue. There isn't enough supply and there's way too much demand. And even when you look at things like, I used to call it Edmonton Housing or Capital Housing, now it's called Savita. They have waiting lists that are 2 to 6 years long. So if you put your name and you have a newborn, you might not get a subsidized housing placement for 5 years, and your baby's going to kindergarten. So these are sort of the pressures that sort of when we don't make when we don't meet these housing needs, there's a lot of flux, there's a lot of instability, and there can be a lot of chaos. And if you're a single mom and you want to keep your child safe and warm and thrive, you might have to put yourself through some awful choices to ensure that your child has housing and needs. And that might be living with an abusive partner, that might be being sexually exploited, that might be called what they call squirreling, which means you are providing sex for basic needs. And there's no money, but you get a place to sleep, usually in the John's bed, and you get to eat the food, but you've got to follow your end of the, the agreement, and that's usually exploitation. The other issue that I think involving this instability is one of the issues involving this, other than homelessness, is the inability of children's services. And again, this is my opinion, to pivot and to provide that surge of support that's needed. They always do the drip effect, the least minimal supports to keep a child out of danger. What I like to see child welfare is work in prevention and not just third partying it, doing all their, oh, we'll give this agency so much money to, hold these people's hands, but real financial supports to help kids and their parents stay together, help with damage deposits, help with first month's rent, subsidize the rents, tell programs like Savita get involved, ensure that the children have clothing and that there's a checklist that it's up to par, provide that emotional support, uh, and not in a criticizing or judging factor, but in a more of a supportive way. So there's a lot of things that child welfare could do a lot better. But in my opinion, they just do this drip, drip, drip. We'll give you a bus ticket today, but tomorrow you're going to have to figure it out yourself. Well, guess who goes into crisis tomorrow because they don't have a way to get to their job interview or to their viewing at an apartment? It's so siloed that you sit there at a table and child welfare says, well, that's income support's job, that's the education system's responsibility, or their classic, it's the healthcare system, but it's theirs responsibility. And you see these families get ping pong back around these systems because no one's taking the lead or the responsibility. The biggest issue with children's, at least in my mind, in the Edmonton region, I could speak to that based on my experiences with the Edmonton region, is this community service delivery stuff they do, which means that they parceled their budget and they're giving a lot of it to third party agencies. Um, some of these agencies are amazing, some are good, and some are just downright awful. And this includes for profit agencies too. So, what happens is the delegated worker within children's services, the government employee, is focused on the child safety component of it. However, in regards to the administration of the file or the actual interactions with the clients, the family, and the child, it's subcontracted out to these agencies. And you have too many cooks in the kitchen. And I hate cliches, sorry for using that one. And everything gets muddled and messed up, and there's no decisiveness, there's no clear trajectory. You get conflict between the community service support people, whatever they call them, the third party people, and children's services, and the families sitting there. I sat there and sat at tables and watched these agencies fighting in child welfare and child welfare fighting with these agencies over things like bus passes or counseling or things like that. So it's a bad model. This region invested heavily into it, and they won't admit that it's a failure. And I think it's a failure. Um, I think that they could have
Yeah.
done a lot. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. So I gotta ask, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Why were those services outsourced, farmed out, however you want to say it, versus built up within the existing system? Do you know?
Ah, there. You should be employed with children's services because that's the question I've been. So they got this sort of model. They got this model from Australia, it's my understanding.
Okay.
And it was a good model, but then they hybrided it and parsed it all up and they made a big freaking mess of it. And so we've got this mushy, somewhat similar model that they have in Australia, but not really. And it's become a mess. And I've literally sat in a boardroom that you would think would be for a Fortune 500 company, and they're talking, and the family's there, and they're talking for about 25 minutes for about whether this family should get a bus pass and who should provide the bus pass. My inside voice is going, okay, $18 an hour, $65 an hour, 100. Oh, the psychologist here, $320 an hour. And you're looking at something like $800, $900 an hour of taxpayers' money for a $75 bus pass. And it
Yeah,
just,
yeah, that
you
that you know what?
literally,
I'll just say that feels like a design by committee situation.
yeah. And that's exactly what's happened is that everything is designed by committee.
A bus
And
pass, really?
oh, bus passes, who's
Like it's
responsible for,
important. I get
no,
it.
no, just
It's
for
not a
phone
minor
minutes,
thing.
who's responsible for phone
Uh-huh.
minutes. I recall a family I was dealing with, mom was a hoarder. The children were emotionally traumatized because they were living in this house with this mother. They all loved each other, but the kids were getting, impacted by this. And it wasn't an easy fix. It was an expensive fix. And the service provider, which was a for-profit company,
Of
was
course.
really not wanting to bring in the dumpsters and bring in the people to help clean up associated with the counseling associated with it. And they parsed it all up, and and honestly, Kevin, I worked on that file for about 4 years.
Okay.
4 years.
So, and it's just to be clear, as we go along in this at the moment, you don't know the answer as to why they farmed it out, they outsourced it, they didn't build up within. We just don't know.
Well, it's an ideology. It's like it's nothing's ever settled. You always have to turn up the heat. Now, this is because of external things. So you get a new child welfare minister. Some are great. Nami Buller was amazing minister. He was an amazing minister. We've had some real winners, and they all bring that ideology into the department, and they seem to want change. And sometimes you don't need a lot of change.
One family, excuse me, that you assisted felt intimidated during the child welfare meetings, where they felt the emphasis was on assessing their fit as parents rather than the resources to improve their situation. Your calming presence, as I would put it, and ability to communicate on their behalf helped ease some of their anxiety, showing the importance of advocacy in humanizing the process. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I wouldn't call, depending on what side of the table you're looking at me, if I'm either calming or that aggressive asshole. And I want to
I
start off by saying I have the absolute respect and admiration for children's services workers. They're amazing. Because they're getting dumped on everybody. But I have a job. My job is to support these families and these children and these youth. I'm not part of the government. I'm not the eyes and ears of children's services or the justice system. I am there to support the family in a way that the family wants me to be supporting them, and in a way that they feel comfortable with me. So that many times I'm calming in that sense because um, I work with a family at a level that includes um, meeting with them, going to them, providing uh, instant supports. I'm not there to haggle. If a mom texts me and she needs baby formula, I'm not there to give her numbers or say you should do this or should do that. I'll just transfer her $100 and get some formula, get some bus tickets, blah blah blah. Um, I've working with families that have again been working multiple generations within the system, and there is no way that this family unit will ever trust the system, at least for not another generation or two. So I try to go in to these situations with the family, try to articulate what the family is feeling, what kind of outcome the family would like, and what kind of issues that they're feeling. And many of things is when they're working with child welfare, which is children's services is supposed to be serving and helping these families. But I always find it more of a courtroom as opposed to a classroom. These families aren't learning anything. What they're feeling is judged. And, children's services needs to have the tough talks But for just an example, and again, it wasn't anybody being mean spirited. It was just based on institutional way of dealing with things. This Indigenous family, I said, okay, we'd like to meet with this office, this worker. And they said, because this family wasn't aware of even her children weren't in the mother's care. They didn't understand what sort of authority children's services had over the children. So was it a TGO, a custody order, a custody agreement, a supervision order, a family enhancement agreement? There's all these different ways. And so they didn't understand and they didn't know. So this meeting was really important. And so I typed up my email to children's services and said, this mother and myself and some of the extended family members would like to attend. And they said, sure, Mark. And then they had right under it, your client must be sober. Your client cannot be aggressive. And, this is just, and I have an Indigenous practicum student and she saw this email and it just enraged and upset this family and my student because it was based on stereotypes and it was just inappropriate. It was completely inappropriate. And
Okay, so not something that they'd send out to just anybody then. Okay.
no, but again, I don't think Children's Services was being mean spirited. They just were being very institutional and they didn't appreciate the words that they were sending to this family. But anyways, back to your question is that this family is going to these meetings. I think the families understand that I'm there for them. And I think Children's Services understands I'm there for the families. These are the hills that I'll die on. I'm not going to undermine these families. I'm not going to compromise my advocacy to build relationships with Children's Services. I'm there completely and wholly for that family and to ensure that that family has all the resources and opportunity to break out of that system and get back to their lives. There's so many issues that I deal with a week. For instance, next week I'm going into a meeting with Children's Services where the mom has had her children apprehended and she has to go for drug testing. And the lab that she's going to always comes back what mom says are false positives. And she says it's because of her medication for ADHD and things like that. And I know this mom and I know this family, and that makes total sense. And I've never seen this mom in a situation where, that she's chronically entrenched in methamphetamines or other drugs. So we're getting these positive, what we believe are false positives. So we're going into this meeting and saying, it's time to change the lab. And that will be an uphill battle. And I can see Children's Service saying no. And I can see mom and I filing what's called an administrative review and appealing it. I can see me talking to people within the healthcare system to seeing actually if this can happen and how frequent it is and that sort of advocacy, and basically trying to correct and change a behavior within the child welfare system on how they treat this particular family. And that's just an example of a everyday sort of, battle that I have.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. One is, thank God they've got you. I've said that many times about many things.
Well,
The work that you do, because what if they didn't? And I'm sure there are many other families and
and this is,
individuals where you can't help them because
and
you're one man.
and this is where, when we go back to the original question about
Yeah.
systemic issues, I believe Children's Services thinks ignorance is bliss. That if these families are ignorant of their rights, not aware of policy, not aware of the processes and the appeals that are available to them, the things run smoother and more in favor to the system. And I guess it's easy for me to say because I'm not, and I don't have to deal with the Alberta government being my employer or anything. But I could see myself if I was a case manager working for children's services saying, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to agree to that. However, Mrs. Smith, here in our policy, you can do what's called administrative review. And in fact, it's in our legislation. So you can appeal it. You can get some sober second thoughts. You can get, and they can overturn me because I might be wrong. I'm a human being. That's how I would practice if I was involved with children's services. I would make sure that these children and these families be absolutely aware of every right they have and every opportunity they have to be empowered and challenge this huge system. But I never see that. I always ask families, did they tell you that you have the right to an admin review? What's that? Did you have a right? Did they say, did you want to review it with a lawyer first? No, they just wanted me to sign this. These families, and why would they be experts within the child welfare system other than being recipients of it? Uh, know what their rights are, know what government responsibility, responsibilities the government has. So this ignorance is actually something that really needs to change within the child welfare system. We really need a child welfare system that's um, upfront to these families of what their rights are, how they can disagree without skipping across provincial lines or hiding their children. Um, you know, because I think, it's their right. This is a free and democratic society. This isn't, you know, autocracy.
Yeah, and I don't want to go onto the next thing here, but in the word that keeps jumping out to me here is humanizing the process. Like treating these people as human beings. And I know that's probably a triggering thing because it doesn't always work out that way. But just the idea of where you come in, and you can't help everybody certainly, but for those who you can help, for you to walk in the door, have these conversations, inform them that this is what you can do, this is the process, these are your rights, this is what you can do, here are the next steps, etc. And then whether it's filing an administrative review, which they've probably never heard of before in their life in some cases, or many, um, and going through that to again get the appeal, get the hopefully the win, and
Can we put a link down there after we're done? So
yeah,
if there's a family that sees this, they can click on a link and actually print out or
absolutely.
go to library and print out an administrative
Yeah,
review
yeah.
form. Yeah,
Like I
I'll
said,
send you the link.
it's about being informed, right?
Yeah.
And the government clearly is treating it as an ignorance is bliss situation. That's what I've seen. That's what you've seen. I haven't been on child welfare, but
And
yeah,
it also, the frontline workers
yeah,
aren't allowed to open their cocoon and spread their wings. They aren't allowed to, when
yeah.
you say, there's not a humanistic field,
No, no,
child
no.
welfare, but child welfare managers and child welfare
Yeah.
caseload managers and workers, they got into this field and rightfully so, and they're great human beings and they
I'm
have
sure
great
I'm sure
potential.
the
But
intentions
the
are there for
system is
sure. Yeah, yeah,
so construed and um, it's
yeah.
so institutional. The system,
And that's what you're
um,
saying. So for the again, how people, how the vulnerable are communicated with, and the institutionalization of it, and where you come in and you say, actually, this is wrong. We should do it this way. We should talk to these people. We should have these conversations. We should, fill out this form. We should, do this, do that, in order to kind of make things right. Whereas the system itself, they're are completely overloaded, completely overwhelmed, what have you, and they just aren't giving the family everything that they need,
yeah,
but
it's the
perhaps
it's the drip drip effect. And again,
yes,
we want child welfare to be
in the
intrusive when they
moment, yeah,
have to be. We want every child to be safe. and I was watching Question Period,
Oh, dear.
uh, the Alberta Question Period,
Okay.
and there was a it was a question about the number of Indigenous children in care, and that um, the opposition was saying, that these children shouldn't be like, a lot of these children have been traumatized, these families have been traumatized, and everybody agreed. But it's at the same time, it's a situation where there seems to be a big push, no matter what, no matter who, we will not get involved. It's a numbers game. We will continue to reduce the number of Indigenous children in care, which I think is the ultimate goal. And because there's overrepresentation. Again, this is just my opinion, and I know my
Well, you've
limitations.
seen it, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know my limitations because I'm not living those experiences. I've been uh, I've been enveloped in white privilege all my life. Um, but I can see why we need to get these numbers tracking down. But we have to do it the right way. We can't just sort of stop providing intervention services to children that are in imminent harm. And my concern, I haven't seen this yet, is that children's services will become too gun shy to become intrusive with families when they have to be. It's a sticky situation, but I think what I think I want to end it with in that
Yeah.
sense is that
Yeah.
child welfare cannot be political. It cannot be about numbers. It cannot be about finances. It cannot be about ideology, and it cannot be about like political ideology, and it cannot be about um, 180-degree turns and outcomes that go against the flow of nature. Children's services has to be nonpartisan. It has to be uh, it has to be involved. People from all different demographics need to be involved within the system, uh, on a leadership role within as frontline workers in and as advisors. And
Mhm.
we need to de de deinstitutionalize it at every opportunity. And it sounds ironic because at the beginning of this, I'd say, they're not decentralized. I'm not saying decentralized, but
Deinstitutionalize. Yeah.
yeah, 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 deinstitutionalize it, um, keep it centralized and deinstitutionalize it and humanize it.
That's a
And
sentence. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the challenge.
Yes.
And that was the question period. I think the goal was honorable.
Check.
It's just I'm worried about achieving that goal.
Like most, I won't get political here too, but I will say there's usually a lot of nodding heads. Do they in fact understand? I doubt it. Myself, I doubt it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this minister's really good in the sense that he's not trying to make this like the other ministries. Like every time I see Sale Certain talk, he's not throwing confetti into the air about how great the UCP is. He's not making this you know, um, about a political party. He's platforming children's services as a collaborative effort involving all members of the legislature and all communities within the province to make a system. So I like this minister, but
You've had
but again,
criticisms, but you like them. Yeah,
oh yeah, if you want to go run for public office and
that's right.
you're the minister of children's services, you have to accept that there's going to be criticism.
Yes.
If you're a manager of a child welfare office and you have to accept the fact that there's going to be criticism of your office and
Yeah.
the way you might do things. That's just if you're a social justice advocate or a human rights advocate,
Yeah.
you have to accept that you have to be open to criticism and you're going to get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah. So I know we've. It sounds like maybe the perception might be that we've criticized child welfare or children's services quite a bit in this particular conversation. Um, however, I want to move on here, but I want to
Yeah.
point people toward episode 4 because there is a clip in there which I'll actually create a clip out of, but there's a piece in there where you give child welfare and children's services significant praise for the good work that they do, and so it's not as black and white as we uh, might be making it out to be in some moments. You do praise them quite a bit yourself, but criticism, I think, is healthy.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of credit goes to first responders, and there should be credit. But these workers, they work with families, and they deal with and they develop emotional connections with these families, and they have to deal with these successes and these tragedies, and they become have the same feelings sometimes as family members. So it's very hard for a child welfare worker to, anybody involved within the child welfare system, employed within the child welfare system or children's service system, that
Mhm.
has to. I mean, it's an honorable job. It's a thankless job, and it really scars people
Right.
that are trying because there's so much tragedy and so much
Yeah.
death involved. And, a first responder comes to a car accident and there's tragedy on the road. Yeah, you're seeing the blood and you're seeing the gore.
Mhm.
But if you're within the child welfare system, you're seeing the heart and you're seeing the soul. And I don't know which is worse. I would suspect the latter.
Me
I
too.
think that's my feeling is when you develop relationships and emotional connections with families, you feel their tragedies. You feel these um, exhilarations when things are going great, but you feel these tragedies when they don't. That's why I think working for children's services is probably one of the toughest jobs there can be because, when a 7-year old, something tragic happens to a 7 or 9-year old and you've been working with that family for 6 or 7 years, you're a human being and you obviously have strong feelings for that child and a strong emotional connection with that child. And when you lose a child, it impacts a worker in a way that I don't think it would impact a first responder. So again, you know,
And
yeah, they,
I'd echo that the same for you because you do uh, approach it much the same way. You've talked about how over years, decades, where you're in communicating with different families, different individuals, where you're helping them, where you're getting to know them, you're spending time with them, building up those relationships, and then something happens. Tragedy happens, I guess. Things happen certainly, and you have to. I want to say accept it, but you have to. It it comes with the territory, right?
yeah, yeah,
Even though it affects you. I'm going to move on here, if I may. Uh,
sure.
so the next point I have here is I call it challenges in accessing support and resources. The example is that you advocated for a single mom who needed mental health supports at the time, but found that the required counseling services were not covered by her insurance and were difficult to access. While child welfare encouraged counseling, they did not provide assistance in locating or funding services. Excuse me. You stepped in to connect her with a local support group and financial resources, highlighting how families often encounter resource gaps in the system. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's um, there's always been an idea to. I mean, you have siloed systems. You have the justice system, you have the welfare system, you have the education system, and you have the healthcare system, and you have the family system. So I think you have 5 systems, um, but they're siloed. Now, sometimes provinces and states have looked at innovative ways of maybe having a ministry of children, where you open these silos and you have when you're dealing with children, the education, the justice, and everything is together. One of the good examples of this is when I was, this goes back to the about 15, 18 years ago, was I did a project um, with the Department of Justice, Youth Justice, and looked at innovative programs. And in Quebec, much of their youth justice system is involved within is under the direction of the healthcare system, which makes a lot of sense. So I think when we get into situations where things remain siloed, you're ping-ponging families back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What we need to be doing is just having an ability to ensure that that no matter what system will cover the cost for that particular child or youth in that family in that
Right,
incident,
right, yeah.
that the life jacket, that the lifeboat will always be the children's services system. And if for whatever reason, probation officer won't refer a kid to, a kid's on probation, he's 13, and the probation officer won't refer him to a counselor, or the healthcare system says there's a year waiting list to see a psychologist for the mom, that lifeboat, being children's services, needs to step up and says, listen, we're going to be advocating to get these systems to do their job, just the way maybe Mark does to us to get us to do our job. But in the
See,
meantime, in the
yes,
interim, we will cover this cost. I mean, obviously, I'm simplifying things and
yeah.
there's processes, but they did try that for a short period of time. Um, I think it was under the what's his name? The guy right before Notley.
Kenny?
Uh,
Dare I say his name?
no,
No?
before Kenny, the last premier before Notley, the guy that
Uh,
died in the plane crash.
uh, Prentice.
Prentice. During Prentice's years, they looked at this weaving the adult income support system with the children's services system to ensure that there was this strong bond to deal with some of these complex families and complex files and cost share. I worked in a place where they were cost sharing and they were coming up with innovative ways to
What a
dealing.
concept.
Yeah, no, and it was at least in the short period that they were doing it, that I saw them, it was much better than the CDS files system they have now. But I think that's what you have to do. I think that you have to integrate children's services within these systems. You have to get children's services to be more advocates within
Yeah.
systems, and you need to make sure that children's services is the lifeboat. Is if everything, if there's a crack and this kid's falling through the crack, the child welfare, children's services is at the bottom to catch that child. I'm trying to change my terminology from child welfare to children's services
Right.
because I was actually sort of go off top. I've been doing this for 35 years now, and
Something like that, yeah, yeah.
I was at a meeting with a young, uh, an amazing kid. I can't get into detail, but she's doing it, and she's doing it by herself. She has no family support, and I mentioned that maybe somebody like child welfare could help, and she says, "Why would you call it welfare? Why would you call it welfare to me who would need support and services, not a handout, but a hand up?" Yeah. Why have I been calling it child what? Because I've been not, I've been institutionalized over the last 3 decades of calling it child welfare. So I'm really trying to call it children's services. So if I stumble and correct myself, I'm trying to change my terminology on that. So children's services, when they are able to be those advocates for these children, be able to be the lifeboat and the life jacket for these children. They need to be. The family should not have to worry about whether they're going to have counseling or not. Oh, you're going to get counseling. Oh, don't worry about that. Our case manager has a youth worker on his. He's setting all that up, and he's fighting that the healthcare system does its job, and that this family isn't waiting 6 months to speak to a doctor. So that's I think that needs to be the outcome, is that children's services needs to be the fighters fighting these other systems to do what they're mandated to do. And they need to be that safety net and support system no matter what. And it shouldn't be the stressors put on these children and youth and families. The stressors should be on the system, children's services system.
Yes, indeed. Two more to go, and then we'll jump into maybe some questions, as many as you're willing to answer.
Oh,
um,
sure.
uh, Advocacy in court and said meetings, but anyway. So in court, advocacy in court. You accompanied at one point. You accompanied a father to a children's services. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're learning it
Yeah,
off me. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where the father was facing losing custody due to allegations of neglect. You helped the father understand the legal language and prepared him to communicate clearly in court. This support led to a more favorable outcome, where the father was given time to fulfill children's services conditions. This case underscores the difference that informed advocacy can make in high stakes situations.
Hmm. Well, family court is always high stakes.
Mm,
It's an emotional platform where families are in crisis and they physically meet together. Um, and there's narratives and reports presented to the justices, and some of those reports are very damning, very disturbing, and it can really take a lot out of a dad. Let's say if you have a limited income, you don't know what. I mean, there's this entrenched feeling that if you get arrested and you're charged criminally, you need a lawyer. But a lot of people don't understand that when you're involved in the family court, you also need a lawyer. Um, so they come to these appearances not represented or not consulting a lawyer, not knowing their rights, and they're seeing these narratives and these allegations, um, and these outcomes. Now, the outcomes for criminal is the bar for criminal conviction is up here, which it should be. The bar for child welfare, children's services becoming more intrusive and involved into your child or youth's life is a lot lower because children's services has to act on suspicions and probabilities. Where criminal, you have to have on fact, not speculation. Needless to say, these fathers and these moms are in for big surprise when they come to family court, and it's not in a way that they feel is they don't many times they don't feel like they have access to justice. They have some great duty counsel lawyers in family court who help steady them and adjourn things to get them a lawyer uh, if they qualify for legal aid or give them time to hire their own lawyer. But in this case, with this father, as I've done hundreds of times with moms and dads and cookums and mushums and uncles and aunts, community leaders, is explain to them that they have rights, um, that they have a say, that their opinion and their argument matters, that they should be treated with the utmost respect. Uh, yes, there is some judgment involved, but again, it's someone's or a system's opinion. It's not necessarily fact or truth. And when you explain this and you support a person and say, "Oh, listen, we're going to walk you to duty council. I'm going to sit up with you in the pews. And when they call your name, I will be standing right beside you." That in itself, at least in my experience, really tempers down the anxiety and the stress and usually involves a better outcome. Now, I make it very clear, again, make it clear to everybody that might see this. I'm not a lawyer. You wouldn't want me as a lawyer. I'd be a terrible lawyer. You'd be like, "What do you mean? Go to jail?" If I was a lawyer, it'd be terrible. Um, but I do have some general information. I do have a good understanding of how the court processes work, and I can articulate well that, you're a human being and your voice matters just as much as that guy sitting down the aisle with a law degree from McGill University. That's the importance of being a good advocate, in my opinion, is being able to be on multiple platforms in multiple situations and able to
Yep.
change trajectories and outcomes no matter what platform or system you're involved with.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say, I appreciate that you're not a lawyer. No, I don't mean it.
Well,
That's
thank you.
mistaken in any way, shape, or form.
No, lawyers are great
It,
people.
it, it, it,
There
it,
are
it,
there are true human rights fighters.
yes, lawyers
Lawyer.
are. Yeah, lawyers get the job. Many of them do fantastic work. My point was, sorry, my point was that I appreciate the fact that you're not a lawyer, that you didn't go become one, that you didn't go to law school, these kind of things, and but you've been doing this work for 30 plus years, 35 years, I think you said, and you have been the boots on the ground. You have been in court. You have been going to see these families, these individuals, going through the process with them. That's the best education you can possibly have. Law school just gives you the diploma on the wall. Like I compare it, at least in my circumstances, to I do IT for a living, right? KevinTheTechGuy.ca. I'll just give myself a plug. I went to Nate. I went to another school shortly after that. I got the pieces of paper that I needed to get. But where I've been learning, where I've been becoming the professional that I am, and 90% of what I know is self-taught or is taught with communication with my customers and so forth. Um, uh, by seeing what's happening in the real world, reacting to it, learning from it, growing from it, um, that sort of thing. So
Yeah. Uh,
I know you don't have a diploma, but I don't think you need one because your role is more of a focus on the individual, less on the law, even though you know your way around.
yeah. I think one of the strongest attributes I have is knowing my limitations.
Yes.
I am not an officer of the court. I am not an expert in law. And you need law. You need
Yes.
somebody that knows law
Yes.
to be your advocate. And I see lawyers, is just at a critical level as an appellant lawyer, criminal appellant lawyer has the same expertise and has the same sort of um, needs that same sort of understanding and tools and ability as you would expect in an orthopedic surgeon, for example. Um, Many times, I think what really sidetracks and constipates the justice system is not having access to a lawyer or self representation. That's not to say it's a bad thing in some cases, but when you're dealing with complexities
Yeah.
in case law and how it relates to our charter of rights and freedoms and the legislation that's, you know, yeah. But my role again is to
Yeah.
I don't talk
You-
law in court.
No, you
I don't
advocate. You
say
advocate. Yeah.
I say this person needs to see this person needs to deal with this issue. I'm not sitting there. I'm not going to ever bring up any case law or
Right.
precedents or rules of court or anything like that. And I think that's the best way that I somebody in my position could be an advocate. Yeah, for what I do, I don't think you need anything framed or on a wall. You need to have an opportunity to learn. You, you need to be mentored in a good way. You need to be non-judgmental. You need to be fair and
Mm.
compassionate. You need to understand that you're never going to knock it out the park. Things are made in inches and millimeters. You turn trajectories by zero point 0.5 degree or 1 degree if you're lucky. You're not there to you're not there to make someone go 180 degrees into another direction. You'll never do that. The
No,
family will do that. The
yeah.
child will do that. But you're just, so yeah, and I don't know, I'm getting off topic. So anyways, you know what
Yeah,
I mean.
I do, and I was gonna say, I like your comment about it's about inches and millimeters because obviously I thought of the phrase Fast and Furious, which has nothing to do with this, but inches, whether it's an inch or a mile, but so I appreciate your how for you it's inches and millimeters because the details, the small progress, well, small, what's the word I'm looking for? The progress today in that moment matters. And actually, there was a tweet which I was maybe going to reference some of them today, but we don't have a heck of a lot of time. Where did you say that?
Yeah, we've been at it, what, for
Uh,
I don't have my glass.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
getting lots of time out of me because I don't have my glasses on. Yeah, we've been here for like an hour and a half. Wow.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah, we should. Yeah,
we'll start. Where the heck was it? The phrase that comes to mind is small victories, or just the victories along the way to the big win, right? Hopefully that happens or doesn't happen, but really taking pride, which I know you do, in the victories along the way. And I know that's what keeps you going because you can't always, none of us can, get those big wins all the time. So I wanted to really, that's what that brought to mind for me. Um, let's go through a couple of questions here. We can call it quits whenever you want.
sure.
um, when you first meet a family facing child welfare so I did it again, children's services involvement, what's usually the biggest fear or concern that they share with you?
Um, that children's services is going to take their children away, or the children's service is going to take these children from a children's perspective, take them away from their parents. That's the biggest fear, plain and simple. It's
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Ooh, what's that odd sound there for a sec?
Oh,
Um,
it's my cat yawned.
always good for the pets to make an appearance. It's wonderful. Um, let's see here. Could you maybe walk us through a typical first conversation that with these families and what that might look like, and how do you make them feel more at ease? So maybe I'll start with that one. How do you make families feel at ease?
So there's verbal and nonverbal cues. For instance, I dress
Yeah, yeah.
pretty casually. I meet them where they want to be met. Sometimes they want to meet me at my office. Sometimes they'd rather meet me at a coffee shop, lots of people around, or a mall. Sometimes they want me to come to their residence and meet with them. So they determine, they set the environment. Um, that helps. Second thing is, some people in um, first contact might involve a text
Mm,
because you're very nervous, and kids and youth are growing up not to use texting, right, as a first contact. So I'll get a text and then I'll text back. So that first contact might is very different too on many different levels. And then when I meet with them, it's something that I've said tens of thousands of times, and I'll say it, and I'm sure I've said it before. I say to every family, I've said it to you before, but I say to every family, or every person that I'm trying to help, first of all, I'm trying to help. I don't know if I will be able to help, but I have three rules, and those rules are golden rules. The first rule is, you're my boss. I don't work for the government. I don't work for the police. I don't work for these agencies. I don't work for anybody but you. So you can fire me anytime you want, and you can direct what you want me to do anytime you feel comfortable. The second rule is I never say the word should. There are people in your lives that say that word. Some of them need to say that word. A lawyer, for instance, giving you legal advice, a police officer who's got a gun pointed at you. Those people, you listen to the word should. Um, but me, I'll never say that word. I'll give some suggestions and leave it up to you. So that's the second rule. And the third rule is, I won't rat you out. I'm not the eyes and ears of children's services or the justice system or even the healthcare system. I let them know that if I know that a child is in imminent harm to themselves or to others, I have to, and I will, let let the appropriate authorities know about that. But being in imminent harm is, uh, hi, Mark, I've got a drug deal coming out at my place, and you know that, and these guys got guns and knives, and you've got a baby there. That's imminent harm. but saying, I fell asleep last night and I woke up and my baby had put herself to sleep, or my toddler had put herself to sleep. That's not good. You need to work on that, but that's not a child being in imminent harm. So you have to be very clear. So those are the three rules. I won't rat you out. I won't use the word should, and you're my boss. And that's really where the comfort is. And the proof is always in the pudding, Kevin. You need to show people, or I work through what I show, not what I say. I can say any sort of flowery adverbs and adjectives as I want on a text or a conversation. But the real thing is when I'm in meeting with them and somebody like within the justice system or children's services, and they see that I'm actually on their side. And as an advocate, you're not there to provide or impose your perception and your opinion into the situation. You're there to amplify their concerns, family's perspective, the family's concerns. So advocacy is a lot different than, you're not selling this family a car. You're not trying to push an idea into the family or amplify it to children's services and come up with your ideas. And advocate, it's same root word as adversarial. Advocacy is adversarial. Um, you know, Anytime someone tells me that, Mark, sometimes you can be a better advocate working within the system than without. No, you can't. Sorry. My 35 years, you can't. You got to be outside the system to work to change the system. Um, you know, Maybe a collective union can change your payroll and your benefits, but to change the system, you need to be outside of the system. That's the way I see it.
All right, maybe two more here. Um, what are some? I hope this isn't a loaded question. I worry about that with each of these.
Oh, that's it.
What are some
Fire
common?
away.
Yes, we'll try not to completely exhaust you. Um, what are some common misunderstandings families have about children's services in terms of what they're? Let me read that again. What are some common misunderstandings families have about what children's services is there to do, and how do you help clear those up?
So the biggest, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. I just sound different.
might be Zoom
Um,
for a second. If you
well, sorry, I've been busy. I think that was Free Man by Leonard Skinner, the free bird. I think the biggest misconception that people have with about the child welfare system, children's services, is that they're there to take your children away.
Mhm. You said that,
Um,
yeah.
they're not. They don't want to. I think they're really honest when they say that too. They'll try to do everything they can so that doesn't happen. But given the situation that the family's in, given the family history or the cultural history or the genocide that our indigenous people have faced, that fear is well placed. So that's the biggest misconception. When you're dealing with older youth, let's say 13, 14 and up to 18, children think that children's services can lock them up, take them away from their families, make decisions about where they go to school, who their friends are, what they do for recreation. They don't. And I deal with a lot of youth who have that fear, which is completely different from families. And I really reinforce with young people that are above the ages of 12 that they have a lot of influence and a lot of say of what they want to do and where they want to live and who they want to be associated with and who do they want to love and what business is it, you know, what business does children's services have in their lives. It involves relationships, involves pregnancies, things like that. So they have they think they have an Orwellian look at children's services. I think this is a common denominator with all these families and children and youth is that children's services is all powerful, benevolent, and can be extremely intrusive on a whim. And that's all a misconception.
Definitely deeply personal stuff, so I can see how assumptions can be made or misin people can be misinformed or what have you. I'm
But
not.
let me clarify that. If you're a
Yep,
youth,
yep.
if you're 12 and you have a strong urge to go sit in traffic and you have the crap beaten out of you by your father, children's services will listen to you, but they're going to be intrusive
Right, right.
to keep you safe and keep you alive and so that you can thrive. So children's services does have a few hammers in their toolbox, but it rarely comes out.
Okay. Last question for you today. How do families usually react when they first meet you, as an advocate? Do you find that they're surprised by the type of support you offer?
Um, I wouldn't say surprised. I think there's a lot of, well, what does he do? Or
Yeah,
what do you do?
right.
I know you do something because people referred me to you, or, I've heard about you, but so what do you do? Because usually the first contact is, somebody will talk to a friend or a family member saying, I did this, this is happening in my life. I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about going to jail. I am going to jail. Um, I can't access. I'm getting evicted tomorrow. Phone this guy, text this guy, and that's all they need. And I hear you can help me. What do you do? And I respond saying, what's keeping you up at night right now? And if it's I haven't paid my taxes in 10 years, I say I can't do much. But if it's the police want to talk to me and want my DNA in regards to this guy getting killed, um, you know, I can do some. I can direct them to a lawyer, tell them that you know you've got the wrong guy. I'm here to support you and ease your fears, but you need to talk to a lawyer about that. Or I can sit there and say, or if somebody's saying, I don't have a place to sleep, 15, and children's services isn't helping me, or no one's helping me, I could say, damn rights I can help. And let's get to it. And send me your email and I'll send you $50 so you have a safe ride and you don't have to rely on a John or a abusive stepdad or a hitchhike on the road of tears to get from point A to point B. So easy solutions, low barrier solutions, and and impactful solutions is what
Absolutely.
I can offer.
And I love that it's based on, from the sounds of it, mostly word of mouth, where people say, "He helped me, great guy, knew what he was doing, made me feel at ease,"
So,
all these things. He can help you, give him a call, no hesitation. I love that.
I wouldn't say great guy. I don't get a lot of great guys.
You don't know?
No, I got a problem. I got a problem guy. This guy that can. Yeah,
Solve your problems, yeah.
these families do all the great stuff. They do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you don't like the whole praise thing, but you're
No, I
fine. You
don't.
you are a great guy, you are.
No,
But that being said, I know the way you care more about the work that you do and the people that you help, that's your focus, so I appreciate that. Um, uh, but I do really.
and I have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun. I really enjoy. I'm gonna have to answer for it. I'm sure one day when I pass and I have this review of my life,
That's right.
and
Yeah,
they'll say, "Well, Mark, you were feeling a bit energetic and excited about this fight with children's services.
yeah.
Y- And it looked like you almost having fun." And I think, yeah, I kind of was. I don't know why. Yeah, I enjoy my job. I enjoy a good debate. I enjoy a good fight. um, And
Oh, there's the cat again.
you know, that's probably the biggest driver of why I've been here still after 35 years.
Absolutely, and there is a clip actually that I created for you from episode 4, as it turns out, where you speak to that there as well, of how
Yeah.
it's, what was the phrase that you used? positive, what's the phrase? At any rate, you strive for, there it is, positive outcomes. You strive for the positive outcomes. They don't
Yeah.
always happen, but you strive for them. That is your aim. That is your goal in the work that you're doing, and that's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
That's
And not my definition of what a positive outcome is,
okay.
but that 21-year-old mother
Yeah,
who's homeless and is walking downtown Edmonton with a stroller and a baby.
right.
Her definition of what a positive outcome is. That's what I strive for.
Okay.
Because if I just went for myself for a positive outcome, I'd say, well, at the end of the day, I have a Guinness, my cats are fed,
Yeah,
and I get a nice hug from my wife and my kids.
that's right.
So it's not my, yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
I did realize it was their positive outcome, but I appreciate you putting the focus on it's not what you consider it to be. It's what the people these vulnerable people that you're helping with, if they consider it a positive outcome. Um, that's awesome. I love that approach because I've heard very too often, and this is not specific exactly, but to what you just said, but the idea of it kind of feels weird to praise ourselves, whereas it comes down to perception, right? It comes down to that word of mouth, what other people say, their experiences with you, and so forth. That create the reputation that you have, right? Personally or professionally. So, and not just you, but since I'm talking to you, so I love that people feel, dare I use the word comfortable, but that they give you a call when they need to, or they recommend your name when they need to, and you'll do what you can. Absolutely. To reach that goal, to get them the help that they need or the supports or the what have you that that person needs or that family needs. And that's all you can do. That's literally all you could, any one of us can do. But you happen to be in a pretty special position with the 35 years that you've got behind you so far uh, to uh, to to do this work. So I'll say it again. Thank you for doing it, and thanks for. I know
No,
we're going
thank
on.
you, Kevin, for doing all this.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going on a bit long here, and that's how the podcasts tend to. We aim for an hour. I swear to God, people, we aim for an hour. But more importantly, as I said up the top, uh, this is going to be chopped up into clips, and that's what's going to resonate the
Yeah.
most. Well, that's what people are going to watch the most because 2 hours is a lot to ask. Never mind one. So for these heavier topics, so please, by all means, people, in the days to come, the weeks to come, check out Mark's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mark Cherrington podcast. The link will be in the description or show notes or whatever on social media. You can watch the clips and the shorts there, and that'll give you the essence of the different topics we've covered and what Mark has graciously has given us his time, as you have, Mark, to to go over this topic of children's services uh, and answer the questions. We could clearly go on forever, but we got to call it quits sometime. And just absolutely, I'm so grateful, just endlessly, eternally grateful for you taking time out of your weekend, especially to be on the podcast episode 5 with me today, and to be going over these points. I tell you, every time I talk to you, I learn something new about many things. It's fascinating to get the perspective from you and to say, "Oh, that I didn't know that about you, or didn't know that about the people you help, the work that you do." That so it always learning something. I love this podcast. I just love talking to you,
Oh, no, thanks.
talking with you, and I hope that Children's Services does listen to this or watch this, and for that matter, everybody on YouTube, even though that might be wishful thinking, but certainly in Alberta and Edmonton, and we can help as you do with each person that you meet, each person that you help, where you're sharing your knowledge with us. And I sincerely thank you for that.
No, no, thank you, Kevin, and thanks for helping me out,
All right,
amplifying my voice.
1000%
Yeah.
happy to do it. A privilege, one of the greatest privileges of my life. I've said it before. Um, I'll let you go. It's like I say, nearing
Okay.
2 hours.
Oh,
This,
hang on a sec here.
yeah,
Hang on.
things are talking to you. Okay.
Hang on.
Oh, we're
Uh, That's driver's seat. That's what the song is. Driver's seat.
Okay, driver's seat. I don't think I've heard of it. I've heard of driver's
Oh,
license. I haven't heard driver's seat.
oh, it's by Sniff and Tears from the 70s.
Oh, I'll have to check it
Driver's
out.
seat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You've referenced two songs I have to check out now. I'll have to look those up. Um, Again, sorry about the 2 hours. This was the first deep dive, so a little rocky. We'll smooth things out over time. And then episode 6, as it turns out, we'll get back to your tweets and a bit more of a variety in topics. So hopefully people appreciate all that all that we're doing and continue to listen and watch. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
again for your time this weekend, Mark. I appreciate it, and it's good to see you as always.
Same here, Kevin, and you have a great weekend.
You as well. All right,
Okay.
talk to you later. The points Mark and I touched on during this podcast shed light on the complexities of children's services, the system gaps, the emotional toll on families, and the difficulty of navigating support when the system is overwhelmed. Mark's 3 guiding principles emphasize the importance of truly listening and meeting people where they are. We explored how practical solutions like securing transportation or clarifying rights can significantly ease a family's burden. Mark's examples highlight how dedicated advocacy can shift the balance, ensuring families feel supported rather than scrutinized, or as Mark puts it, where it feels like they're in a classroom and he's giving them options rather than being judged in a courtroom. The core message? While broader systematic changes are necessary, real progress often begins with focused, thoughtful support tailored to people's unique needs. Advocacy is about making meaningful strides to help families regain stability and agency in their lives. If this discussion resonated with you, please consider sharing it to help raise awareness. Conversations like this are a step forward toward ensuring families navigating these challenges are met with understanding and meaningful assistance. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast, or the clips that you have watched or listened to, or Mark's blog posts. My name is Kevin, and I consider it an immense privilege to volunteer my time and energy to co-host this podcast with Mark. Please check out my home business at kevinthetechguy.ca. Again, thank you for watching or listening. Episode 6 will be available in about a month, and we'll focus on stories from his tweets again. If you have feedback about this episode or any of the episodes Mark and I have done, please feel free to reach out at feedback@markcherrington.ca. That's feedback@markcherrington.ca. Thanks again for watching or listening. See you next time.